Jeff, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Paul.
Hello, that's me.
How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Jeff. Very good indeed, though a little bit
Good.
jealous. I didn't go to the London Comic Con and meet Jodie and everybody else
That's
like you
right.
did.
Yeah, I did go to London Comic Con at the weekend.
And he hasn't stopped telling me about
No,
it.
I haven't actually.
Sounds like he had a really good time.
Yeah, it did. It was brilliant. Really nice to meet everyone, and from the show and fans as well. An enormous amount of love for this
great.
era, the show, the whole thing. And I don't think I told you this, Pete. Amazingly, a lady came up to me towards the end of the day and she said, "Excuse me, are you Jeff from Who Corner to Corner podcast?" I could have fallen over where I was standing. I said, "Yeah, I am." And she said, "I recognised you from Twitter." I couldn't believe it. And then we had a lovely chat about the podcast and
That is amazing.
Doctor Who and stuff. So that was a really nice little moment at the end of the day. So as I sort of alluded to there, we're not alone tonight, and we're joined by Pete Levy from Doctor Who, and who was the produced a large chunk of Flux. So how are you tonight, Pete?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, Jeff. Good to meet you both.
Good, thank you for joining us. So we've got lots of questions, and we've got questions from our followers on Twitter as well. So we'll just kind of get straight into things, I think, really. So Pete, tell us, for anyone who doesn't quite know, can you tell us what being a producer on the show means as a job role? Because it's one of those things where, sometimes people ask me as well, what is a producer? It's sort of...
What do they do?
Yeah.
What is a producer?
Can you narrow it down?
Well, what do they do all day?
Yeah.
What do they do all day? Surely there must be something.
It's strange, isn't it? It's the first question that I normally get asked.
Is it? We do try to be original on this show.
No, you are already. It's one of those jobs where a director directs, a cameraman operates the camera, soundman listens. I suppose that the best way in theory is a producer is the person that takes the story, takes the writer and the showrunner's vision and puts that onto the screen and collaborates with all the heads of departments and shares that vision and makes sure we stay on track as far as schedule and as far as budgets and all of that housekeeping stuff. And a producer reports directly to the series producer. In the case of Doctor Who, that was the amazing, immaculate Nikki Wilson. And Matt Strevens, who was our exec producer, and Tracy Simpson, and then ultimately to Chris Chibnall, who was our showrunner. So I report into them, and then I collaborate with the director, the DOP, and all the various heads of department.
So it's not a small and unimportant role, is it? Then?
No, it does have a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
But I do remember. I mean, obviously, I was the visual effects producer on 11 and 12.
Yeah.
And I remember we had a really good session one day. Chris, Matt, Nikki came into DNEG, the company that I was working with at the time.
Yeah.
And we had a really brilliant session. I can't remember what the episode was we were reviewing, but as we walked out, Chris and I were both, we're like kids in a sweet shop. Once we're seeing work in process of, I think it might have been the Skithra, and that chase sequence.
Oh yeah, with the big scorpion
car.
aliens coming out everywhere.
Yeah,
that.
Absolutely brilliant. Working with a fantastic visual effects supervisor, Sheila Wickens, on 12 and on 11 with Mike Bell. And as we got to the door, Chris made a lovely comment, and I said, "Do you know what, Chris? I can't believe I actually get paid for doing this job." And Chris just looked at me and, without missing a beat, went, "Yeah, I haven't been able to work out how they still get to pay you."
Brilliant. Oh, that's fabulous. I mean, doing something that you enjoy to that level, even to wondering, why do they pay me this stuff? It's almost. I mean, is it kind of what would you say being a producer is a sort of role that you aimed to follow as a career, or did you just kind of land it? Did it follow you? How did it sort of happen?
It's bizarre, isn't it? I mean, I think I haven't got a linear career path. I sort of looked at opportunities and taken opportunities, try something. If I don't like it or I don't think I'm good enough at it, then I'll drop it and do something else. So it's a bit of a sort of slow meandering river. And I think I started my television career at Breakfast Television at TV-am.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because you tweeted, didn't you, a watch the other day, and I sort of, I looked you up and everything, and saw, like you said, kind of I stalked you, yeah. But like you said, your career path has been really interesting, actually. The way you've kind of moved through things and from illustration and effects and.
Yeah, but also I think it's about just we all learn and develop as human beings, and I think as you develop, as you find new interests. I mean, technology has changed enormously since I started in the business. Then you can follow these little paths. And I got promoted to graphics supervisor at Breakfast Television, and our old boss, God rest him, a lovely fella, Bruce Gingell, who was a bit of a godfather of British television. He said to me, well, of course, you know why you're promoted. And I thought, oh, here we go. This is going to be embarrassing. It's my creative flair. It's my vision. Apparently, it was because I was the oldest and I shouted louder than anyone else.
Key skills.
Yeah. How much more am I getting paid? But I think that was as a result of a lot of the skills I'd learned in the forces. I mean, obviously, I joined the army straight from school. So it was a lot of the skills that I learned from there. So I think all of us, we've all got different skills and things that we pick up, and it's just finding out where you can best place those. And for me, the role of a producer, it best fits where I'm at now and a lot of the experiences that I've got. Having said that, to be a producer, you've got to have a good team around you, and it is a big job and it is a huge responsibility, certainly on a show like Who. But we're really blessed with having people like Nikki, Matt, Tracy and Chris, who just really support us, and they're our friends and they look after us. And the one thing about Doctor Who is, for the whole 3 years that I've worked on the show, if anything ever happens, something goes wrong or there's a glitch or whatever, there's never a case of, okay, that was your fault or whose fault was it? Something's happened, let's put it right.
That's right, you're all in it together. It's not a blame game. Yeah. So, well, my next question was, what's it like? What was it like working on Doctor Who Flux as a whole project? And you've sort of mentioned it a bit there, and the other people that we've spoken to, like Ray and Bav, talked about the family feel to everything, and you've sort of kind of reiterated that as well, Pete. So what was it like working with everyone and just doing a project of that scale?
I mean, it was, I've described it as, that very similar to that moment on Christmas morning when you run down the stairs and you run into your front room, having for so long. But your front room's not your front room, it's the TARDIS, and it's not your brothers and sisters, it's Jodie and Mandy, and as Salim, who was our director on our episodes. It is. I think that sense of responsibility is always there, but having worked at one step removed in post-production as visual effects producer on series 11 and 12, I knew the crew. I've been a fan of Who since when, way back when. I knew the location. I knew everything about it. So that wasn't such a big thing, joining the team as a producer. The big thing was COVID.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Yeah, that must have been a big stress on the production.
Yeah, it really was. But thankfully for us, I mean, the BBC is a well maintained organisation with lots of brilliant people in it. Jackie, who's was my point of contact for health and safety. She'd been working with other series like Call the Midwife and Silent Witness, and I have to say a massive thanks to their production teams, because it was a case of me picking up the telephone. Obviously, I joined the Series 13 as COVID manager for the first episode.
Halloween Apocalypse,
Yeah, because I still had a bit of time to prepare for episode 3, so it gave it gave me an opportunity to help formulate the protocols around how we get back on set. But again, you know, I know it's a cliche, but it's genuine. It's that whole family thing. You know, you want to keep your family safe, but you want to see them. You know, that first morning back on set when we haven't seen each other for eons, everyone just wants to hug and how are you and how you been, but of course we can't because everyone's a little bit nervous. The important thing was that not that everyone was safe, everyone felt safe.
Yeah.
You know, because we've all got, you know, younger members of the team, they've got their grandparents. There's, you know, members of the team have got their kids. They've got young kids. You know, they've got pregnant relatives and all of this sort of stuff going on, and you know, vulnerable relatives and all this sort of stuff. So it was like with everyone. You know, but having said that, I am aware of the fact that we're working in a television studio and we're not. You know, we're not digging holes in the road. We're not working frontline. We're not doing any of that stuff. So, with all of that said, we do put what we do into perspective. But at that moment, it was a big thing. So that was our biggest. I think the biggest issue for us was COVID.
Yeah. So with my work, which is you know, on a different scale, when I was going out to film and having to deal with COVID, you know, like so doing an interview with two people, for example. You've got to think, well, I need to keep 2 meters between them. How do I make this shot look good with an enormous gap between them? And so that was, you know, challenging enough. But, you know, what must it have been like for you guys working on the show and anyone working on, you know, TV or film, trying to deal with all of that? And like for you, Pete, trying to put protocols in place in a situation that, you know, was changing by the day and by the hour, I guess.
I think it was in those early days, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing is, you know, credit to our exec team, credit to Chris. You know, I wasn't, you know, sat next to Chris in those very early days when he decided that, you know, what he had to write or what he wanted to write and the stories that he wanted to tell. But I think from a production point of view, the fact that there was no overseas travel in this series, you know, because it wasn't possible, we had to try and look at a scenario whereby guest casts, we could use them for longer periods of time. For locations and sets, we could use for more episodes. And as always, you know, Chris and Nikki and Matt took that as a challenge and all part of the adventure. You know, that we could go on. But from a practical point of view, you know, when you've got a brilliant art department as we had, you know, building sets, you've got to think, okay, I need carpenters, I need plasterers, I need painters, and I need all of this. Okay, so I'll get those guys in first, and then we'll get that team in, and they leave, and then we've got to. I think we ended up with a set of protocols that were right for us with testing teams. You know, setting up as a lot of productions are. So this wasn't special to us at the time. Was, you know, setting up video villages outside of the set so that not everyone needed to be inside.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And you did a COVID test shoot, didn't you? Which was at the end of, well, it was before Series 13. That's when Tosin came back, wasn't it, for a day?
Yeah, I wasn't involved with that.
Right, okay.
To be honest.
But yeah, that was kind of to see if it was all workable. Because I guess at one point, you know, it was, well, unsure if anything was going to film at all, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was always in the back of our mind. But everyone was so, I mean, obviously everyone's desperate to be safe and to keep each other safe. But we want to get back to work, you know, we want to get back to some form of normality. That was human nature. And I know that you would have spoken to the lovely Ray, you know, and his department. You know, they had to think about getting material in and costume fittings and, you know, and keeping that, you know, sterile and all. I mean, and the makeup, the prosthetics team and the, you know, it's phenomenal.
Something that
whole input.
Something that you just is, you know, you do every day, like the makeup or something, suddenly becomes immensely challenging, doesn't it, for different reasons? And same with the costumes and stuff. Ray talked a bit about that. So I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but and I'll come back round. But did the plans for the series change? When COVID hit and everything, and to turn it into the massive serial. Was that always the plan for series 13, or because my understanding was that plans were in place and scripts were being written, and then things had to change, and I wondered whether things like War of the Sontarans was an episode that was kind of adapted to fit into Flux and things. So that I kind of wondered what the plan was.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I wasn't right there at that level of pre-production stage, so I wouldn't be able to say for sure. If I had to take an educated guess, Chris would have started prepping way before COVID struck. We would have looked at can we get an overseas shoot? And Chris loves telling stories and breaking them down. So you've got one of the, that's the beauty of Doctor Who. You've got a time travel mystery, then you've got a historical, then you've got a kitchen sink, and then you've got something else. And I should imagine, and my sort of educated guess is that he would have had to have changed those the early days. But with regards to changing them, once we got into pre-production, I think that it would have very minimal changes, because I think the exec team was smart enough to know what they could do and what they couldn't do. And of course, the Welsh government gave the television film industry, exemption to get back to work and to get out. It's a big boost to the economy. It's a good employer, and obviously we need escapism. We needed escapism then more than any other time.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we were aware of the fact, if you're going outside a location, there are members of the public that can't go back to work. That are watching us. So we must stick to those protocols. We've got to be respectful and mindful, if we're out on location, that people are watching us. We've got to it's an opportunity for us as a production to set a good example. And I think, we managed that. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. No one got sick as far as I was aware. So, things worked. Yeah. Paul, have you got any questions at that point?
I do actually. It's kind of breaking away a bit. I'm quite interested that you. So I think you alluded to it earlier, Pete, that you were part of the DNEG team originally. Is that right?
Yeah, I joined DNEG, good grief, 5 years ago, possibly. Yeah. I joined as VFX producer on an episode of Black Mirror.
Oh. Okay.
What the poster behind you is?
That is the Metalhead. Yes.
Did you draw that?
No, I wish I did. But one of our animators found that. It was a really talented illustrator, and we asked him if he would would run a bash off, and it's signed by my whole VFX team.
Brilliant.
It was just. I intended to join DNEG for a year. Thankfully, they kept me on. I think because the team won. It was the Metalhead episode with the robotic dog, and as you can imagine, working with Annabelle and Charlie Brooker was just peeking inside those brains. It's just
scary place in some ways.
Sometimes a little bit scary, but really collaborative. And for me, DNEG. So I was, our BAFTA was the first that the television department had won for our episode of Black Mirror. But I'm working with artists, VFX supervisors, animators, match movers that have done Baby Driver, that have done all the Marvel, that have done Batman, that have done all the Harry Potters. I mean, it's for me working in VFX. It's like having Ronaldo and Mo Salah and all of these sort of guys all play for Yeovil Town Football Club.
Everyone at the top of their game, reaching for the stars.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what does being a visual effects supervisor involve? Is it sort of similar to being, the show producer and the kind of day-to-day, but obviously working in post and with effects?
No, it's completely different.
Okay.
So a visual effects producer is more about looking after the finances and the schedule. And obviously, as a producer, my link will be with the production team, making sure that we manage expectations, we deliver on time, we get backplates and all of that sort of stuff. The visual effects supervisor, that's the creative lead. So as I say, on series 11, it was the fabulous Mike Bell, and in series 12, it was the superb Sheila Wicken. So I mean, they've both worked on some of the biggest movies and TV shows of our time. They're the creative leads, and then with them, you've got a head of animation, a head of model build, a head of texture. So Sheila and Mike's job will be, what shots do we need to produce? And they oversee all of those departments. So for something like the Pating, for example, which was one of our first ones, one of our first creatures, Mike.
He's great.
I mean, it's just.
I love the Pating. He's so full of character, isn't he?
Yeah.
I showed my kids that bit, and they were sort of repulsed by it, but also really liked it. When it eats the Sonic and burps, and it's got the rows of teeth, and
But that was it. It was about getting that humor across as well. But I mean, each and every single one of those shots, we would have been in a viewing suite and watched those 50 times or more, because both Sheila and Mike are perfectionists, and we're watching it on a big screen, so we've got to make sure they've got to make sure every single element is right.
Favorite Pating shot, when it comes out of the airlock and it's just taking the explosion.
And it's so
happy face on, just floating in space. It's got a happy face.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was one of our favourites as well.
Yeah. Well, so I was going to ask, what was your favourite visual effect that you did on the show, and what's one effect that people wouldn't know was an effect? Because I'm quite interested.
A couple of questions in there. Did you see that?
Quite interested.
He does that. You've got to watch out for this.
And I love being surprised and not realising something was an effect.
Wow, I mean, there are lots of brilliant shots that I genuinely loved, and it's little tiny things. There was the shot, and forgive me, I can't remember which episode it was, but there was an episode where the Dalek comes down crashes through the roof of the building.
Yeah, that's Resolution, isn't it?
Is it? That one.
Oh yes, it is Resolution, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And you can see where the light is coming from its stalk. You can see the dust motes coming through that. I mean, it's that attention to detail. I love the battle. I live in Bristol, and that's my home. So I loved it that we managed to have our Dalek battle on Clifton Suspension Bridge.
Yeah.
That was good. There was some photos of that, wasn't there? Way before the episode came out.
Yeah.
Those little things kind of help to get a bit of a buzz going, don't they, in between the breaks and the series and that sort of thing. I mean, it's so is your is your background, would you say, creative or more technical, or some mixture of the two?
No, I'm not technical at all. I've had to move with the times. I felt that at my age, I've sort of crossed over, from using bits of wood and plasterboard to technology. I mean, I used to, as a graphics operator at TVAM, I was creating Ulrika Johnson's weather maps on a Quantel paint box that you could have bought for £70,000.
And now the phone will probably do it better, won't it? Yeah.
There'll be an app for that.
Yeah.
There is an app for it. I mean, I did all of the animation for the last series of Channel 4's Scrap Heap Challenge on a piece of software that I bought for £90.
Yeah.
It's changed so much. I mean, So as a producer within visual effects, I make no bones about this. There is an element of frustration because you're watching brilliantly creative people being creative. You're having some creative input. So I suppose the payoff for me, I've always painted and illustrated, and that's been, that's helped pay the mortgage. But that's my sideline, as it were, because that just fulfills my creative juices.
Yeah.
So becoming a producer, it's a completely different game, and you are a lot more creative. So I'm painting less.
But maybe the creativity, because I think the way that I'm understanding as a producer is kind of a manager. You're managing lots of aspects of production. You're managing a lot of people. You're managing budgets. You're managing resources. You're managing just the kind of to and fro, the flow of every day on the studio and beyond it. And perhaps the creativity is in solving the challenges that arise from those things. So although you're not directly painting and drawing and stuff, you're being creative in your solution provision. Does that make sense? Or would that be accurate?
No, yeah, that does make sense, actually, Paul. And I think the thing is it's like everything, because you surround yourself with people that are brilliant at their job. So on a production of that size, you'll have production manager, line producer, your first, second, and third assistant directors. So they're helping you to take care of that. They're doing their jobs. So it is a case of working with the director and the DOP, because I've sat in a number of meetings, a number of script meetings. I've had conversations with Nikki, Matt, and Chris. I know what Chris has got for that, in his imagination for these shots. So it's just to make sure that the director has a similar vision and a similar view. I mean, I was genuinely impressed with Az when I was working with him. He's an absolute darling. He's a brilliant director. He's brilliant with people, and that's the important thing. It's being able, and I think this is part of a producer. It's just once you put that team together, it's working with that team and allowing them to do their job properly, and allowing them to take credit for doing their job properly as well. And Az was brilliant, I have to say. And we had a brilliant DOP called Phil Wood, who's gone on to do some amazing stuff and beforehand. So we've all got our own different roles, but I think what's really nice is just collaborating. What do you think of that shot? And do you think we could do it slightly differently? But that, I think what goes to the behind all that is we're all fans of the show.
You want the best for it.
Yeah,
I must say that the last 3 series of the show, I don't think it's ever looked better. And
it's been fantastic.
And Flux was beyond epic in every way.
It really was.
And we've talked, Paul and I, with people on Twitter about this, but pulling that off, in COVID and with all those restrictions, and it just looked absolutely phenomenal. And the cinematography and the effects and the standard of them, like the opening scene on Halloween Apocalypse where Jodie and Mandip are hanging upside down and stuff. Just I showed my son that bit, and he thought it was brilliant. Oh, can I watch the rest of it? I was a bit late. You've got to go to bed now. But it was proper.
Was that him or you, Jeff? Sorry.
He's though.
But full. It absolutely competes with what Netflix and Disney Plus are doing, and all of that kind of thing. I just
that's good to know, and also on not necessarily a fraction, but not such the big budgets. But
Ray talked about that. Yeah,
he did,
we've got Dave Bannister, we've got Dave Zaretti, we've got Andrew Robertson, we've got a massive DNEG team who are leading those departments, who are with us supervising those shots. So that opening, not only have you got the fabulous, performances from the cast, but you've got the stunt coordinators, you've got the whole production crew, you've got the DNEG team as well. It's brilliant. I mean, to see that develop, it's a joy. And, watching shows like Mandalorian and all of those, and see some of my old colleagues' names sort of pop on those. It's going,
do you pause the credits so you can see them and they're blocking? text.
Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely, big time. Just like a WhatsApp conversation with them, like how did you achieve that shot, and how much did that cost? And
we could use that. We could do that one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something, isn't it? Because there's that shot in War of the Sontarans again, when you got the two armies coming across the battlefield, and you got all the little individual kind of elements, that sort of crowd. I don't know what it's called. The crowd technological things where they have random elements in the crowd. Is that what it is? Yeah, Jeff knows this stuff, but it looks fabulous. And I mean, obviously, we're looking at it from the point of view, the perspective of very grizzled adults. At least I am, anyway. But when I was like Jeff with his son Ethan, the kids, they don't see any difference between what they see on Doctor Who now and what they see on in the cinemas and everything else. And to be honest, actually, even as adults, we don't. So in our heads, it's all just fabulous stuff, and it's filling the world with dreams almost.
Yeah, and talking about the kids there, you may have wondered this as well, guys, but my kids watch stuff, and I think, I wonder do they think the Pating is real or the Hulk?
Whoa!
What? What are you suggesting?
Pete just said the Pating was his mate.
Unbelievable.
But they don't know that they don't know anything about CGI, do they? And
they take it all in, don't they?
Yeah, and it looks so believable and so real. And sometimes my son will say, is that is that real, or they say, yeah, of course, but they don't know, and the stuff is so believable and so good that they're absolutely tricked by it, which is the point of it. Yeah. So Pete, you produced specifically on Once Upon a Time, Survivors of the Flux and the Vanquishers, didn't you? So what those are, particularly Once Upon a Time, is just a bonkers brilliant episode, and so much great character stuff in it, and visuals. The bit with the giant Maury where Jodie's hanging there, it sort of it reminded me like something you see with the Watcher in old Marvel comics, where he's massive, but from across those 3 episodes, what was your most, let's go with, what's your most memorable moment on each, and what was the biggest challenge on each?
Ooh. Wow. So
I've
gone off script there with the challenge question.
That was improvised, was it?
Yeah.
I'll just throw that one in.
So
you won't mind.
Okay, so Once Upon Time, I'd say that the challenge was getting started. Was for Az, Phil, and myself, it was getting to know the team, them getting to know us, and working. There are loads of brilliant shots that I'm really proud of in that. I would have to say, working with, I mean, it's a given that our cast are fabulous anyway, I mean, I think if you just look at the Twitter feeds of how engaged they were at Comic-Con and and that sort of thing, that's not made up, that's what they're like.
Yeah. People, they love the cast. I sort of mentioned it earlier, the enthusiasm and the passion, and having not been in a room, with other fans like that for so long. When I went to like MCM Comic-Con in London a couple of years ago, it was just as Series 11 was just about to launch, or just started maybe. So there was a few 13 cosplays and things, but we hadn't really kind of gotten into it yet. So now, all these years down the line, you might have seen they did a great big cosplay meet where Jodie Funko bombed them, and just hundreds of them, in costume. I was quite jealous. I thought I could probably rock that coat as well, But it was just brilliant, and people in tears of joy after meeting, the girls, and I managed to hold it together. But I think you can go online and wonder whether it's a true representation of things, but having been there, the love for it is real.
Absolutely. Oh no, without a shadow of a doubt, it is. But I think what was a real bonus for us was our guest cast. So with Once Upon a Time, I mean, I've always been a massive fan of Craig Parkinson. Anyway, the man's a brilliant actor.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there was this scene in when he's doing a deal with when we first see him, he's running through his lines, and Mandip is stood to one side. She's in that scene. Lovely Jacob as Vinda is in that scene as well. And I can't forgive me, I can't remember the exact script, but it was, oh no, I understand. And Craig's facing away from him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say anything for a couple of beats. Oh, you understand, do you? And then he slowly turns around to face him, and we let the scene play out. And then one of the old hands, even older than me, looked up and went, "Oh, he's good." It was that moment where we were holding our breath, because that malevolence was so palpable with Craig, and he carried it throughout. I think throughout the whole tenure of the Grand Serpent. But so that was my favourite bit. Survivors of the Flux, Kevin McNally.
Yeah.
I mean
Eustachius Jericho.
Yeah.
Yes,
I wish we'd seen more of him. Even in those 3 episodes ish that he's in.
Yeah.
He's brilliant, and that character has so many stories to be told. I'm sure Big Finish will take that one on, but yeah, brilliant.
Oh, I hope so, and I think so the other big name that we had was Barbara Flynn.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It was just an absolute dream, and so lovely, and I think, when you've got actors of that standing, who can interact with Jodie in exactly the same way as she's interacting with the guy who's looking after the fleet of cars, or one of the runners, and know their names, but to see Barbara and Jodie acting the scenes of "Don't you recognise me?"
Yeah.
Oh.
I talked at length with a chap at Comic-Con about that, and he said that Jodie says was the master line to me, and Tecteun just pauses before she says no, and he said that moment, he was amazed by how powerful it was, and that whole scene, and
brilliant
really,
scene,
really good. Yeah,
I mean, so much going on as well. The way Tecteun just assumes the child was there abandoned when, as the doctor points out, she could have been waiting for somebody else, or they didn't necessarily come from the wormhole. The wormhole could have taken the parents, or suddenly those possibilities, and the fact that she doesn't care. Tecteun just does not care. There's no empathy in the face. The way those two are playing it, that scene is absolutely electrifying. And there must be, I think, as you're alluding to, Pete, a lot of trust in the actors, and knowing and understanding that the director gets it, that the sound guys, the lighting, everybody's getting at this moment now and letting the actors breathe and do what they do in that space.
Yeah, but I think what's also interesting is the fact that you've got actors of that standing, but watch their face when they walk onto the TARDIS.
Can't they hold it then? That's when it all
may
collapses.
have watched with grandkids or kids or whatever. So that seasoned professional becomes another fan.
Yeah,
just like we are. But also I think it's the a massive respect for Craig Ailes, who was covering.
Oh my God, he's so good.
I mean, he's amazing, and also to Sam Sproul and Rashenda, for their roles.
I was going to say, let's talk about Swarm for a minute, because both of them were incredible in every aspect. The suit,
way they move,
pointy shoulder, the movement, the crystals. And last week, Pete, I was filming a theatre show. And we got there when we started to set up and things. We were doing a live edit on it, and I can't remember how it happened, but I suddenly discovered that Sam Sproul was the lead, and I said to the guys also, "Oh my god, you don't know who that is," and they don't watch Doctor Who. I don't know why I hire these guys, to be honest. I showed them a picture, and I said, I'm going to have to go and tell him how great he was. And then they did the matinee show, and then we came back to set up for the evening, and they were getting ready. They were warming up. I said, Sam, I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I just want to tell you that you were awesome. And then we had a chat about that and our kids and the show and various other things for a few minutes, and he was wonderful, and the show was really good. But yeah, him and Vashinder were just amazing. So kind of, sort of camp at one part, but horribly evil and menacing, and the design, they were really the best villains in a long time, I think, on the show. Just superb.
Yeah, and also I think a lot of the credit goes to Ray and his team, with costumes, and Danny Marie and the prosthetics team, because obviously Sam and Rashenda, were in the seat. They were in before all of us. They left after all of us.
Yeah,
and they had to act as well.
Yeah,
and sometimes we were outside in hot conditions, but it's like you put that coat on, and all of a sudden your movement, and you can see some, actors of their class, they get it straight away, and it's like it becomes part of them. Now, I thought they were brilliant, but I have to say, I think we had a couple of newish stars. So Thadia Graham, who joined us as Belle, Jacob as Vinda. They were absolutely brilliant, and it's almost like the newer stars and the older stars. We're all just, it's all just a level playing field, and you see people sort of feeding off of each other.
Yeah, I think something that shows how successful they all were is that people want more. Like Paul said, wants more Jericho, and people want to see more of
Belle. Belle's got her own fan community now on Twitter, actually. And such a strong character, so well played.
Yeah, just really likable. As well, and they were just brilliant in it. So, what inspired you? Well, you talked a bit about your career path, Pete, but kind of what led you to wanting to get into TV? So you were in the army, and in your early years, and so how did the TV work come about?
It's just one of those cases of being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
I think because I'd always sort of drawn and painted, and it's telling a story in one frame, and also being a massive TV nerd as well. I love that. Reading those stories as well. So I'm reading a story. It could be an M.R. Carey, a Felix Castor book, and as I'm reading it, I'm seeing it as we all do in my own imagination. So being in the right place at the right time. Breakfast television. I had Bernie Gordon. We had Sir David Frost was one of our directors, as I mentioned. Bruce Gingell. So using my illustration ability into the graphics department, and then following that line to animation, visual effects, producer, and coming in that way. And as you see, I've got the perfect face for radio, so there was no way.
Like us, yeah.
Speak for yourself, Jeff. Hey.
Someone said on Twitter the other day, do you think you might do a video version of the podcast? And we were like, I'm not sure if anyone really wants to see. We'll blank us out, and
come on! I think you're doing yourself a disservice now.
I'd have to put some clothes on.
Yeah, you did say that, I think, didn't you? Yeah,
I did, because it's the only joke I know, Jeff. I'm going to use it. I'm going to milk that one.
I'm glad someone else knows the face for radio thing. I remember seeing this little cartoon comic thing somewhere years ago, and the radio DJ was signing this picture of Brad Pitt look-alike, and then of his actual face, he looked completely different. That always stuck in my head. So, Pete, what advice would you give for people who want to get into producing and into TV production in general? Because, like you said, it was right place at right time for you, and everyone I speak to has almost a different route in, and like I did a film degree and things, but kind of got where I am with things, kind of through people I met, and being asked to do things, and it just kind of grew from there. And like I said, it's a different sort of league to what you guys work on. But what advice would you give people?
I think first of all, appreciate the time you're living in at the moment, because I'm of an age whereby, when I was 16, I'm one of five. Grew up on a cancer estate in Somerset. I'm one of five. It's no disrespect to my background at all, but the reality is you pay your way or you move out once you've left school. Further education wasn't anything that was on offer. That was for posh people, university and college. So I think nowadays there are so many good routes in. So university, so there's some fabulous degrees with some really good tutors that I've spoken to, that I know. Colleges, there's some good opportunities. There's organizations like the Next Gen Skills Academy that help. It's all about the talent. It's finding the talent. And I know that companies like DNEG and Framestore and MPC and all of these, they collaborate. They go around to schools. They go around to universities. They've got their own schemes running. Certainly, that's with regards to visual effects.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think a lot of the indie production companies, and certainly the BBC, they're following that same school of thought. How do we get our hands on the talent before anyone else does? Yeah. So I would say, understand the art that you're working in. So watch television. Watch what the trends are. Understand how to tell a good story. I mean, we've got the marvelous Aardman Animation here in Bristol. And my understanding, it's hearsay, but I suspect, knowing the team there, it's true. Every single person that they look to appoint, they're looking for an ability to tell a story.
Yeah,
that's whoever it is, and I think that's true of people in our business. I would say, look at openings, connect with people on LinkedIn, on Twitter, look at post-production houses, look at getting runners' jobs there, look at productions. There's always adverts, there's always shout-outs for runners. There's nothing wrong with being a runner. It's one of the most important jobs on set.
Yeah. You learn so much, and it's the opportunity to talk to people.
Yeah.
I remember when I was doing it, what does this do on the camera? What are you doing over there? How many sugars do you want in your coffee? But you learn an enormous amount from doing it. And it's invaluable, really, and a great way to kind of make a path into things. And I think these days there's probably more opportunities in a way, because there's so much more content being made. But I remember literally walking around Soho, putting letters through doors and knocking on doors to try and meet with people. But you can achieve so much more online now if you just are proactive enough with it, I think.
I agree. And also I think because people are willing to help and they are willing to support, and my very selfish attitude is I want to be nice to everybody, because that runner may be in a position to give me a job in a year's time.
You never know who you might meet on your way back down, who might kick you in the butt again if you put only one sugar in their coffee.
I didn't put any sugar in my coffee. I remember him.
but also I think what that entry level job does, it means that you understand what a focus puller does, what a grip does, so and I don't think, I'm certainly living proof of this, but I don't think anyone needs to stress that they don't know what path they want to go on by the time they leave uni, by the time they're 25. Just do what you love,
totally,
and what you enjoy, and our business is reasonably well paid.
Yeah.
And there are some great opportunities. So I'd say, and do it with a smile. The biggest advice I can give is, whenever anyone's applying for a job, there's at least 100 people who are just as qualified.
Yeah.
But not all of them are going to remember everyone's name on set. Not all of them are going to be proactive. We're all the same. I had this conversation with Az. You see someone from the art department, carrying a cardboard box, they're struggling, go over and help them.
Yeah.
That's what all of us should do.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier about, the being team players and the family. And, when I work with people, I want them to be on team and to go that little extra mile and to, to laugh at my jokes and stuff, of course, but to be, friendly and also good with the clients as well, because if you're going to be a grumpy git and, the client is trying to ask you something, that's a no-no for me. And so, I think that you can have all the skills and qualifications, but if that attitude isn't there, is the wrong one. It's going to go against you, I think.
It's the one thing that will always trip you up.
Yeah, because you want to enjoy what you're doing and work with people that can be your friends and that you're going to have a good time with. And, if someone's combative, or however you pronounce it, and, not moving in the same direction, just makes everything, so much harder.
Yeah.
So that actually, it's almost like I've planned this. That kind of leads me into my next question here. But
you're almost professional at this.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Don't start paying your money.
So you sort of mentioned it earlier, but what was it like working with Chris Chibnall and Jodie and Mandip as well? And people haven't they, Paul, about how great everyone was, and I met Jodie and Mandip at the weekend, and
it was
really
met
brief,
and Mandip at the weekend,
but they were lovely. And actually, I wanted to say, I didn't say this to you yet, Paul, but Jodie as well. But Mandip, every photo of Mandip was like she was super radiant, and it made me think of Barney on How I Met Your Mother. If you've ever seen that, there's an episode where they're like, Barney can't take a bad photo, and they keep trying to trap him and trip him up and stuff, or throw something at him, and then they take the picture, and he's always standing there with his tie like this, and they can never get a bad photo of him, and that's kind of what Mandip looked like. So what was it like working with everyone and being that team?
I don't think there's genuinely not one single weak link in the team. I mean, I suppose I knew Chris and the exec team more than I knew the cast for season 11 and 12, obviously VFX. So, Chris is that, Chris is is the brother who's very clever and got great vision, and you want to please him all the time because of his enthusiasm. He is a Liverpool supporter. As a Crystal Palace supporter, I didn't hold that against him.
Neither can be helped. I understand.
Apart from that, he's a lovely guy. No, he's passionate about Doctor. I mean, the guy wrote Broadchurch, for goodness sake.
I know. Yeah. No, we're big fans of Chris Chibnall, that's for sure.
Yeah. But he's a lovely guy. And my son. Obviously, this is pre-COVID, but I think season 12 came in, to do some. He was doing some work, and Chris would stop and come back, and he'd remember his name and go, "George, what did you think about this? And what did you, And that means a lot to me, because it's not made up. It's genuine. Working with Matt, I mean, Matt Strevens is just one of the loveliest people, that you could wish to meet, and has a similar sort of. We always got on because we got sort of similar backgrounds, and we sort of meandered and played to our strengths. Nikki Wilson, a woman I really, really admire. I mean, she gave me some good breaks, and I've worked with her for 3 years, and she's a tower of strength on the production. As far as the cast are concerned, with Jodie and Mandip, it is proper banter on set, But the minute the minute the camera starts, then they're in. Into it. What, Pete? Why have I got to say this? And what do you think it would be better if to have that level of input is fabulous, and to be. I think what makes my life easier as a producer is when someone like Thadia comes onto set, within 10 minutes, because of the actions of the others, she feels like she's part of the team.
Yeah, that saves a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I really love that. And also, I've got to say to to the rest of the gang that joined us, possibly in particular more than anyone else, John Bishop, because he's not an actor. He's just a genuinely nice bloke who's aware of the fact that in the beginning he's not an actor. He is an actor now. You know, but
he seemed to hit the ground running in this thing, didn't he?
Do you know?
I think.
On multiple times now on Who, you know, Catherine Tate was coming in. Not sure about that. Proven completely wrong.
Billy Piper, same thing.
Matt Lucas, not sure. Proven wrong. And then John Bishop, and he was wonderful, absolutely brilliant. And the fact that off camera, he looked like he was living his best life doing it, you know, and which I really liked as well. So I think, you know, everyone who's ever been in the show has just been spot on, haven't they, Paul? There's no poor casting or anything, you know, across the whole time of it.
No, I don't think there has, and I think it's about, and I think it's getting that balance right with the relationship between the companions and I have to say, I was thinking John Sim was one of my favourite masters, apart from Mitty, but watching Sasha on the plane when he suddenly goes from nice guy to turn that
wow.
And he starts doing these little ticks, doesn't he? Like, come on, catch up, doctor.
Yes.
And he's like, that's my name. That's why. He does all that stuff, jumping up and down his little feet. Manic.
I'll just say on that point, actually. So, spoilers get leaked quite a lot for, you know, anything and everything these days. But this era of Who has somehow
it's been
managed
tight,
to be locked down. But I love that, and some people online they don't like it.
I hate spoilers.
I think they're wrong. Imagine if you'd gone to watch Avengers Endgame, for example, and you knew or Infinity War, and you knew everyone was gonna, you know. I hope you've seen it. I won't spoil it. But you know, I remember watching Series 11 and literally not knowing what the next episode was going to be about because there'd been no synopsis release, and that feeling of like genuine kind of what's next, mystery and wonder, and you know, with Flux,
it's rare to see it.
It's so hard these days,
particularly in genre TV.
You know, however it's been done, you know, it's kudos to the whole team, you know, for keeping things secret. It makes such a rich and more rewarding experience, I think, to watch it.
I absolutely agree, and you know, I liken it to, if you buy a book, you wouldn't just go right to the end and go, well, actually, now there's no point in me reading it. If you want to
exactly,
then don't watch the show. But I think certainly with a series like Doctor Who, it is such a high profile, and I've never been on anything that attracts. I mean, within 10 minutes of being out on location, attracting and certainly when you've got someone like Johnny with you as passenger,
how
you can hide him.
He's a tall guy, isn't he? Yeah,
he's a lovely fella.
Yeah, he was at the Comic-Con on Sunday, actually.
I
saw online.
I saw. So trying to keep that, you know, secret. And I mean, I'd have people wander up and go, "Oh, what's happening there?" I went, "Oh no, we're filming a commercial." The TARDIS.
Play it right down. Yeah.
It's not. Did you feel that spotlight of scrutiny shining upon you, Pete? Was it always there? Was it something you had to quickly get used to?
No, I felt it all the time. I felt it all the time because I think it's our responsibility to make sure that cast and crew are safe. That we keep that integrity of the show. That extra COVID layer that I said with regards to, we are respectful to the fact that we're outside in an arena where not everyone is able to work. And also, you know, I mean, it's a blessing and it's a curse. John, Mandip and Jodie are brilliant when we're out on location.
I can imagine they are, actually.
Yeah. Just and they will go and talk to them.
Yeah, just the camaraderie and the wit between the three of them, because the chemistry really comes through, not obviously on the screen, but also on the behind the scenes stuff as well. I was home alone last week, so one thing I treated myself to was watching all of Flux. I literally watched it all in 2 days. 3 episodes followed by 3 episodes, and it's brilliant because then you get a real feel for the whole story. But it wasn't enough. I needed more, Pete. I needed more. So I dug into the extras on the disc, and I'm watching John's video diary and
Good, aren't they?
Just trying to get a sense of, and that's the thing, like we all do as fans. At least I hope we all do it. And it's not just me being a bit weird, but you kind of you sort of just enjoy the fact they're enjoying themselves. It's almost like, I wouldn't say you want to live that part, although perhaps some people do. Which is great. You would love to be part of that team. Whether it's the Doctor, actually the fiction of it, flying through the TARDIS through the universe, and some ways just actually being part of the reality of it, making a TV show. You like you said, coming down. It's almost like coming down to find yourself at home on Christmas morning, filled with all your best mates, and are we really getting paid for it? There's so many people would love to do that, and you get a real sense of it through, not just the show, but the behind the scenes stuff as well. And actually, James Pardon, didn't he, when he was on our show, he was talking about that, and he said just snapping the little, taking behind the scenes shots. You get Sasha and Jodie going at it on before the camera, when they're recording, and the air is filled with electricity, like you said, with the Grand Serpent, with Craig and that moment, and then all breaks are offset and all chatty, friendly, sharing jokes, having a bit of a laugh and all that. We'd love to be part of that sort of thing.
I do think it's. Do you remember the Doctor Who Confidential?
Yeah,
I do.
I would.
I wish they'd bring that back.
I would love to have had that for 11, 12, 13. So here's the thing. This is just a small example. We're in Liverpool. We're on the steps of the cathedral. It's absolutely freezing. I've got hand warmers. I've got hand warmers in the front and back of both of my gloves, and in my shoes, and in my pockets. It's still not.
You weren't taking any chances.
I'm not taking any chances, and I'm really feeling the cold. At my age, Paul, I shouldn't be out of those.
No, tell me about it.
So we've been out all day. We've got the catering truck there. We've got the lovely Nadia and John on the steps. We've got Johnny standing at the bottom. All of a sudden, I turn around and Mandip rocks up. I can't see her face because it's hidden behind boxes and boxes and boxes of really nice cakes.
Oh, she brought.
It's not working, but she's just turned up because her mates are out in the cold. So she's going to come and I can't tell you how much that lifts the spirit of everyone. And they're all different types of cakes. I had at least 3.
Brilliant. At least 3.
That's lovely. I must say, and I'm gonna
excuse me.
I'm gonna rub it in again, Paul. But when the pair of them did the talk on Saturday, and it was only supposed to be Jodie initially, and then Mandip kind of gate crashed it. They were so good together, and clearly the friendship is real, and I think they referred to themselves as BFF at one point, but it made me think I'd like to see them together. Obviously, the time on the show is coming to an end, but they've got to do something together again at some point, because they're just that friendship is real, but how they are together on screen, and like you said, they're having a bit of banter, and they action, and they go into it, and the kind of interplay and the developments between the characters has been great, isn't it, Paul? And
loved it. The
way it's all gone.
But I think we've seen Jodie. I mean, Jodie's an actor. Jodie's a proper actor. We've seen her. We've seen her at the theatre. We've seen her. In heart-wrenching, scenes, away from the Doctor. I think Mandip has we've seen some brilliant stuff from her. I think she's got the potential to be even better than we've seen her.
I agree.
Seen little clips of her. No, she's a proper star.
I've loved it.
I mean, her and Tosin as well, actually, from series 11 and 12. It's almost like they sort of underplay things, and it feels more, so it's not, I mean, it must be quite easy in Doctor Who, and we've seen it over the years, that there can be a tendency towards melodrama, and everything's very heightened.
Everyone's the most important in the universe. And
when you have people like, like those characters like like Ryan and Graham, and Yaz, they feel more grounded because they're not they're not playing to the melodrama. The actors aren't going for the heightened aspects of it. It's for me, it feels that I can identify with these guys because they feel more grounded. You know, they're relatable instantly. They are human beings who've been transported into an extraordinary situation, and rather than behaving like cosmic angels of victory or something, they're still behaving like human people in an extraordinary situation, coping, still having a laugh, still making stupid jokes, still getting into trouble, and generally having those emotions of anxiety and guilt and loss and sorrow and happiness. All those things have played out through these last two series, for me, in a much more realistic or more relatable way than they have been for a while. For me, that's why I really connect with this latest run of stories, I think, because they are fantastical, but they still feel very grounded through the characters and
but I think that's a combination of Chris knowing knowing his cast and him writing for them and then being able to deliver those lines. I remember we were stood outside and I was watching, there's that scene, I can't remember which episode now, but it was that scene with Mandip and Jodie in the police car. And do you remember Jodie keeps glitching?
Yes. Between,
yeah. And she delivers that little monologue. It's not like I even like Satsuma.
She must have enjoyed that.
I mean, the normal process is to go through a line read and then a rehearsal and then do it and then maybe another couple of takes or whatever. Every single time, it made me chuckle. I did it quietly. I didn't want to be unprofessional. It was like a little monologue. It was just you can really do that. But I think it is that, even with my background, you're in a stressful situation. We're going to see the funny side of things, and that's what keeps us together. So I think that was a combination of brilliant writing and brilliant acting.
We've talked a bit about this online, haven't we, Paul? But it feels like the whole 3 series, if you were to kind of watch it all back again, the development is spread out across the whole thing, and it's obviously been very well thought out and planned, and is more real, I think. In many ways, and that's kind of why I think for Paul and I, many others, it's really clicked that there's such a strong kind of human aspect to it, and we've said this before, but we've never loved the show as much as we do now, and
we've always loved the show.
Exactly. It was like
there's not 100 out of 100. Just put that out there.
Exactly. We were like,
because I love the melodrama as well.
But that love has kind of broken that kind of that barrier.
It really has. I mean, for me, it's like Doctor Who constantly reinvents itself. It constantly shows us something new when we get a new team coming in, new producers, new writers, new actors. The dynamic is constantly changing. For me, that's what I like. I'm not a fan of things that just stay still and stay the same and are produced to a formula. That never changes. Doctor Who, I think, does have some sort of formula to it, but I suspect if you ever asked anybody to actually pin it down and say what it is, it'd be very difficult to say it's exactly this, because you've probably got so many contradictions and things. But I'm kind of running off at the mouth now. It always happens.
No, but you're right. I think that's one of its benefits. I mean, I'm a big fan of TV. I'm a big fan of sci-fi, and watching some cracking shows, even though you can, I really enjoy a particular show. Lost in Space, a good example. I really love it. But then occasionally it sort of gets caught up in its own tale, and you think that is the beauty of the Doctor. It's it's okay. The Flux was 6 episodes, but there's different little tales in amongst it, and you've got to have some form of resolution. And also, I think that we're a smart audience, and you don't need to hit us over the head with a solution.
Yes,
you said exactly that.
Totally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. We've said that before. There is often a tendency to over-explain everything. Like, we are the sentient aliens from the galaxy of Romicron, which is 7,000 light years from your puny galaxy. We are here on a mission of peace, but really we're going to wage war on you all.
But you know what, though? I had my movie watching heartbroken. I watched Highlander. I mean, you know.
Oh, damn! See that for
Years.
years. Sean
I
Connery
mean,
and
I mean,
what's his name? Yeah.
it's Christophe Lambert, Sean
Yeah.
Connery, Russell Mulcahy was the director. It was a
Mm.
brilliant film. It didn't explain every single thing because it didn't need to. We waited for years and years, and then they brought out Highlander 2. Oh no! Well, I won't give anything away, but it's well. In fact, they were the reason they were immortal is because no, I don't need you to
Don't need to
explain.
know that.
You don't need it all.
that's
No,
Yeah,
no.
set up the
You know,
mystery. Let the mystery, feed a few breadcrumbs. Let it kind
Yeah.
of evolve, but then leave it unsolved. Leave
Yeah.
people wanting more. That's my kind of take on things.
And we can fill in the gaps ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So I've got some questions from Twitter users here.
Twitter
and then-
users. Use Twitter.
Tweeters.
Our Twitter
tweeters.
community.
Yeah.
We're calling it a community now, Jeff. Remember, we talked about this, right? We didn't actually.
No, I'm not sure what you're on about there. No.
I'm full of cold. I'm on drugs today. Honestly, I'm taking more aspirin than I've ever had in my life.
You seem normal to me. So
What? There's 4 of you guys. So, I have no idea which one I'm talking to. Good looking one in the middle. Oh no, that's me.
That's you. So I've got a question here from at Ethan Posford, and Paul and I chatted to Ethan for
We
the
did.
podcast
Lovely
the other
fellow,
week,
Ethan.
and I met him at Comic-Con on Saturday. And I don't know if you've seen it, Paul, but I must say his pitch that he got with Jodie is absolutely brilliant. They've got their Sonics and they're pointing at the camera, and it's such a good picture. Yeah, really good. So he said, Pete, were there any actors, characters, or locations that you wanted to feature but couldn't because of COVID?
Oh, very good question from a proper fan there. I'd say no actors, no characters, locations. Yeah, I would like to have gone abroad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think when we were in lockdown, I would like to, only because I think that, the Punjab episode, what they managed to, they managed to shoot there, I thought was brilliant. I love Liverpool. I have to say, that was my first time in Liverpool. But the cathedral. I mean, to go inside was brilliant. I would love to have done some stuff inside, but you've got to be careful about getting lots of people inside an enclosed space. That wasn't necessary in the end. The bombed out church was, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful location anyway. So I really like that. But no, I don't think there was any characters or cast that we didn't have.
So just maybe more of a slight frustration that you couldn't quite go to all these lovely places that you wanted to go abroad. And
yeah. Well, that actually kind of ties in a bit with another question here, because obviously in series 11 and 12, there was filming in South Africa and places.
Yeah.
So at Safe Space Doctor Who asks, how did you film scenes set in Mexico, Nepal, Morocco, and China when you couldn't go there?
I think it's down to the brilliant art department who can make anything look real. If we're going on we were on an ocean liner in the middle of it, that was phenomenal. The Great Wall of China, Nepal. So it's about, we've got a great location team. That's their job, to go out and find. You say, okay, can you go out and find the Great Wall of China for us, please? They'll go and source those. Then the art department, and then I think it's the DOP and the camera team. With the Great Wall of China, it was that. That camp. And brilliant. Ideas from ours. How can we make the most of what we've got? So that camera shot of coming up and pulling out
and the paint, the writing on the ground. Yeah.
I don't want to give anything away, Jeff, but you asked earlier on, what VFX shots wouldn't we necessarily have seen? Those might have been some of the instances where there might have been, but if you've got our lovely sort of stranger high up in the Nepalese mountains, you know, with the banners fluttering and the campfire, and it's there. It's all there.
So that's a question actually from Lee Wood, who's at Lee Wood 79. Where did, in capitals, where did they film the scenes with Cami Darwish?
I'm not going to give that away.
Oh, Pete.
I'm not going to give that away, and I tell you for why. Because I once spent a summer holiday with my son, who must have been about 12, 13 at the time, and I went online and I found out where all the Doctor Who locations were, and we did a road trip. So we did Bad Wolf Bay. You know, we found that. You know, we found where Jackie lived, and so we did all of that. It was reasonably close to home.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, there speaks, ladies and gentlemen, the words of a proper fan right there.
Yeah.
Anyone who's going to take a holiday and drag his family around Doctor Who locations, that's a very fanish thing to do.
One of my other questions was, were you a fan of the show before working on it? And
I think
you've answered that there.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I did pitch. I mean, I was working with a company in Bristol at the time called 422, and when Russell first took on Doctor Who, we pitched to be the VFX provider. We sadly didn't get it, but you know, the ups every cloud. I got to meet Russell T Davies, who's remains one of my television idols. So and just a lovely man.
Brilliant.
As well.
So Matt Price, who's at Matt Price 30, he says, what was to you the biggest challenge in creating the entirety of Flux? We sort of touched on that a little bit earlier, but what was the single biggest challenge, and that was rewarding to get through?
That's a good one, isn't it? I think because I produced episode 3, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
With Az and Phil, and then you've got Nikki and the lovely Sheena, who produced the other episodes and the specials, and then you've got the lovely Jamie, Jamie, who directed some. I think it's about making us all talk to each other and go, well, what's your idea for that? And what happens there? And we're doing this, but why are we doing that? What happened in your episode? So because we all just get on as well, you know, you can have those conversations. Jamie Stone is such a collaborator as well. So, you know, I know he and Az would, you know, disappear into a dark corner with a couple of cups of coffee, and they would be talking. I know they'd be talking just about one thing. Yeah. You know, and also, you know, I mean, Jodie and Mandip and John Bishop, that, you know, they were all party to those other things. So I think the biggest thing outside of COVID was just to make sure that all of us working on our own separate episodes created, and Nikki was over that. Nikki and Matt were over that as well. But yeah, I think that's
it all feels very coherent as a piece, but with, you know, flair, you know, visual flair and style for the respective directors, you know, as well, without kind of you know, sort of deviating too much and making it, you know, completely different. You know, there was some lovely stuff across it all. So there's not really a question, because we've kind of answered this, but Robot of Death, whose username is Graham Ward 68, he wanted to know about filming in the pandemic, and just say, to let you know, he thought it was all a triumph. You know, the whole thing. And then let me scroll back down. And then there's a question from Ian, who's at Ian_RG. And he said, can you stress how much I really enjoyed the whole production? And his question was, what was your standout, proudest moment on Flux?
Finishing it. Finishing it and being proud of it, and leaving some good friends behind that you know, we're still in touch with now. You know, tonight, you know, still so that's my proudest moment. Making making friends and making it.
Yeah, sometimes that's it, isn't it? You do a good piece of work, but it's what you take with it afterwards, you know.
Yeah.
So a couple more. The Devon, whose username is @Devon he says, were there any scenes that changed at the last moment in episodes such as Once Upon a Time or The Vanquishers?
I don't think so that anyone would notice. I mean, any minor, part of our job is that, there will be little tiny changes.
Little tweaks.
When someone would say, well, actually, I wouldn't say that line that way. My character would say it another way, but as long as the sentence is basically the same, it's just the emphasis. I mean, different. The three of us could be given a line of dialogue, and all three of us would say it a different way. And also, when you're there, we get our directors to give us, as it's endemic. Give me your camera plan, so I know what we're setting up for. Once you're there on the set. So the steamer, for example, what a great little set that was. And if you've got your camera and you're coming down and Bish is sliding underneath the bunker, actually, why don't we just do it when and then you can think, think of another way to get that payoff. And Yaz, fighting off the alleged waiter at the door. Oh, it's brilliant. I mean, she did such a great job, So little tiny things, but I think when you're filming generally, and particularly in a pandemic, you've got to go into it with a proper plan, because you've only got a set number of pages to shoot that day. You can't overrun. We know we need to finish dead on time because we've got to start again the following morning.
Were you worried at any time that it wouldn't get done? Was there any of those sort of dark moments?
I think this is probably not just specific to Who. I'd say that's a producer's worst nightmare. Is not shooting out on time, because that's our job to worry about that. So maybe that should be a fear in the back of our heads. If you're out on a street and you're out in a location, and all of a sudden the heavens open, what are we going to do? Are we going to play this out? We can't move the TARDIS and the cast and everything else to another location because we haven't got time. That's a whole day. Do we call an end to the? And I'm talking generic now. Call an end to the day. Do we introduce umbrellas and make that part of the story and have someone allude to it, or do we wait 5 minutes? That
5 minutes becomes 10 and another. It's difficult, isn't it?
But again, it's like we said earlier, isn't it? Creativity, but thinking of solutions, pulling people's talents together and resources to try and find a way through these things. That's where the skill comes in, and it pays off, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
So there's a question from @Cooper Hillier here, all the way from down under.
Hi, Cooper.
What is your favourite episode / serial of Doctor Who, and how about we add to that with classic and new?
Let's put him on the spot right there.
Really? Well, I would always pick something from the Chris Chibnall era. Blimey. Do you know what? I'm not sure if I could pick one. There are moments in a lot of them that I really like. I did love the Skithra. I thought that was, I love Nicholas Tesla. I thought that was a great story. I love the story of Rosa Parks. I think bringing that to a newer audience, that was phenomenal. Wow. I think my favorite non-Chibnall would be. This is going to divide the audience. I'm gonna go with two. I'm going to go with The Lodger because I know James Corden, will divide the crowd, but I thought him alongside Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Matt Smith pretending to play football, knowing that Matt can really play. Was brilliant. My favourite of all time, for a number of reasons, has to be Vincent.
Oh yeah,
I think it was. Thought it was just a beautiful story. I mean, Vincent van Gogh was one of my favourite artists anyway. And I've told this story before, but when we went to one of the galleries in London, you can imagine when you're 11 or 12, that's not your favourite place to go. He saw the sunflowers. It was. I mean, obviously, there are a couple of versions of them. So he saw this version of the sunflowers, and he ran towards it, and he stopped and he looked around. It's like expecting, is Vincent here? Is the doctor here?
Really?
Is that is the but? And I think introducing audiences, and Doctor Who historically has done that. And I thought it was just a beautiful story. That moment when the Doctor and Amy take Vincent back to meet Bill Nye. Bill Nye gives that lovely speech.
Yeah.
It's just every time.
That they show older episodes on, I think it's the W channel or something on Sky. And a little while ago, we were flicking through on a Sunday, and that episode came on. And my wife's not really a big Who fan, but she said, "Oh, this is my favourite episode." And it was just as I go to the museum at the end, and we watched it. My son was next to me, and I ended up having a bit of a tear from it. And he said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "Why are you sad?" And I sort of tried to explain it all to him. And I think even at his age, he was probably just turned 7 at the time. He kind of got that there was something quite kind of special and quite moving about it. And I think that episode and Rosa as well, for example, show the power that the show has, as well as the what sci-fi can do, because it's not just about spaceships and robots and things. This is real people and real emotion, particularly noticeable in Chris's era, but in fantastical and outlandish situations, and in many ways a lot of that is just kind of window dressing for things, and telling a story about people and things. So the Vincent episode it's a bit like
episode. I love that.
When Rose is on the Bad Wolf Bay and Ten comes to see her, I can't watch that. And it's just so moving.
It's incredible. And I think for a show like Doctor Who to tackle mental health issues as well, for me that's really important. And I think that's why Who fans are so special, because I think as a collective we are very empathetic. I think of others and accepting of others as well. And I think that's been a thread throughout the whole series of Doctor Who. It was the first female producer. Waris was the first. Was the first director of colour. I mean, that is phenomenal and continues to lead the way.
Gosh, when you think about it, Verity Lambert, what was she, 28, 29, I think, when she was producing Doctor Who? Something like that.
Unheard of.
In the 60s as well.
So, no spoilers, but you may not have any anyway here, but how much do you know about the remaining 2 episodes, or are you going to be watching as a fan like us?
None at all, Jeff. And I'll tell you for why. Because I do want to watch it afresh. Brilliant. Because it's really, it's really when you're so close to a show like this and you're watching it, and I'm watching something, and I've read the story lots of times. I'm standing just behind that pillar there. Or this stuff. I can suspend belief, but only a little bit. So I haven't heard, spoken to, discussed anything. I want to watch it. I want to watch it fresh.
So you're going to be watching it like the rest of us, with no idea of what's going to happen, and we'll be jumping for joy and crying in our tissues and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. So sorry, Jeff, and I would genuinely, if there was anything I could tell you, I would say I do know something.
Mute the recording. Yeah, we're really looking forward to the Sea Devils episode. They were the sort of classic, villain that I'd been waiting to see modernized. So in that little preview at the end of Eve of the Daleks, where it walked into focus, and I was like, "Oh, they've done it!"
Yeah, how to make an old man feel like a kid again.
We went on a Sea Devils bender after that, didn't we? And watched the
we did, we did two very successful podcasts on the back of that 5-second trailer. So.
Brilliant!
We were that hyped up about it. Yeah,
excellent.
We were.
Pete, we sort of mentioned this earlier, but you got your start with your illustration work, didn't you? And so, is it something that you still do now? And is there anywhere that we might have seen that work that you've done?
I haven't done any. Well, yes. So I obviously, who took up a lot of time, and I was really busy, and so I do it for my own peace of mind. So I've got I do. It can be split into two forms: illustration, which which has been on Blue, for shows like Blue Peter and all that sort of stuff. But way back when, and then my artwork, which is primarily commissions. When I've got time, I was absolutely beside myself to be asked to create a piece of original artwork for Jodie as a gift.
Oh, fantastic!
Of Jodie Mandip and John, which I've done. I did, and there were special limited edition prints made for the exec team, and I did speak to Jodie and say, look, if you don't mind, I've got a couple back. I'm gonna put them up for sale at some point, because I know Jodie's a big supporter of particular charities, and I said I'd like to, donate the profits to a children's cancer charity, and she was obviously very excited about that. So I'll be showing those. I because it was a gift to her. I wanted to give a little bit of time and not sort of rush that. But I'll be sharing those.
Oh, brilliant. Well, let us know when you do that, and we can share that out as well.
Thank you.
I've got one more question that I'd sent you before we chatted, and Paul, you might have some more as well, and maybe I will too. But have you got any message for Doctor Who fans that anything you want to say about them, the show in general, your time on it?
Yeah, I hope you. Well, in fact, I do know you. I know you appreciate the time and effort that we put into it, both behind and in front of the camera, because you continue to watch it and say lovely things about it. It's a catalyst that brings a lot of people together. Please continue to do that. Continue to be nice to each other, and continue to be supportive of each other. The photographs that I've seen and the comments that I've seen over the last couple of weeks from Comic-Cons is testimony to that. Wear your cosplay, paint your front room like the TARDIS. Embrace that. Embrace being different. Embrace being the same. And keep supporting the show and keep watching it. And it is genuinely appreciated. When we go out on location, you see the fans, see Jodie and the team take time to go and talk to them. It does mean an awful lot, I have to say. It does mean an awful lot. We're not, as a group, we're never going to agree with each other, but we are allowed to disagree with each other in a nice way.
Yes, yeah, that's very important. Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, I meant to say just now when we asked what your favourite episode was, Paul, you've probably been asked this online as well. I like to just say Flux, because it's one long episode as far as I'm concerned.
Nice.
For the price of one, Jeff.
Yeah,
it's
nice. I wish I thought that. I wish I thought
that. You can have that one. Plus, Pete. Put it in your back.
I don't want to single one out, so I'll just say the whole thing, because it is. It
is a
one.
cracker, though. I have to say. Yeah, it really is. I've got all blurry again, so I'm trying to get focus. But
our listeners can't see this, but you've got a sign behind you there, Pete, haven't you?
I was going to ask that one.
Oh,
I've been
sorry.
staring
Okay,
at it for the last
I'll
4
cut that
hours.
out. And you
I'm
ask
going
it
to
again.
wave my
You ask
moan and
it,
ask
Paul.
him about that sign behind his plate.
Yes, it is. It's a lovely sign.
Wow.
From that we were presented when we left from our
Can you
lovely.
get a screen grab of that, Jeff?
Yeah, hold on. Got it. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you know, it's fabulous. It's a lovely keepsake.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. No, I was so chuffed, as you can imagine. You know.
Yeah, as a fan as well, you know, which I imagine quite a lot of the crew are as well, and you know, it's one of the things. You know, the show is almost 60 years old now,
Yeah,
and I bet a lot of people who work on it were fans as well, and to get to, you know, move it forward and, you know, usher it into a new, you know, era, a new generation, and things like that is quite something, really. I think it's incredible that it's still going, and you know, shows no sign of slowing down, really.
Well, that's credit to the BBC as well. I think I have to say there's been a lot of noise, and I don't want to get serious, but you know, there's been a lot of noise about the BBC over recent months, and I think that, you know, it's such a brilliant platform to create programs for minority audiences, you know, for across the spectrum, and to continue to have faith when everything is always driven by numbers, to continue to have faith in a show like Doctor Who, like hundreds of others. I think we should be extremely proud. It's not, you know, like some of the platforms, it's about cash. I understand that. Well, you know, we live in an economic world, but I think the BBC can be very proud of, you know, what they give us, and the toys that they let us play with.
Yeah, I agree. I think hopefully the right decisions will be made about things. You know,
by the right people.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I've had a question.
Political there, Jeff, didn't I?
No, I think it was quite reasonable. Right. Yeah, no, I think it was quite reasonable. Paul, did you have anything else that you wanted to ask? I did have one more question.
Well,
but,
I was going to ask Pete about the pull to open TARDIS sign behind him, but you took that one away from me.
I've nabbed that one, haven't I?
That's the only one I wrote down on my little bit of paper asking me about the sign. You know. Oh, I actually, there is one more, actually, Pete.
Yeah.
I did write this one down, right? Because you said you were a big sci-fi, and we talked about Lost in Space briefly, but what are your favourite TV shows? There you go.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I like watching lots of different things. I mean, I've just finished Reacher, for example, which I really...
I'm yet to start that one, actually.
Was it good? Do you know, I really enjoyed the first Cruise film, even though, you know, he wasn't quite right, perhaps. But
this is different. This is so different.
Yeah, this is more accurate, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like Christopher McQuarrie, you know, as a director, and he did a really good job with that first film. The second Reacher movie, it would probably have been a good thriller for, you know, someone.
Yeah.
But for Cruise, it wasn't as good as, you know, his usual stuff.
No, I think the book. I think the book is this current series is very true to the book when the movies aren't. So I would.
Based on The Killing Floor, is it?
Yeah.
Is it that one? So literally the first Jack Reacher novel.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I loved. I did enjoy Lost in Space. You know. So I've watched all of that. There was a French language series called Mission. Which was a mission to very rich multi-billionaires. It's sounding like it could be true. Race to Mars, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's so well done. Comedies. I'm loving I loved Call My Agent, the French language series, which is about a Paris-based casting agency and actors, and and what goes on behind the scenes. I think they're doing an English version, but that was superb. Yeah, I'll watch anything and everything.
All kinds of things. Do you speak French? You talk about French language TV there.
Yeah.
Not. You can read the subtitle. Is that what it's?
Do you know what the funny thing was, Paul? I had to study Latin at school. How many Romans have I met since I left? Not one.
Not a single one.
Absolute waste of
time. Oh dear. Brilliant. No, that's it. I'm out of questions now. I only had those two. That was it.
This has been brilliant, Pete. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. I think people will really enjoy listening to this, and we'll get quite a lot. One of the things that we want to do with the podcast is talk about the show, but talk with people involved with it, like yourself. But to also give people information about getting into the industry, or that sort of thing. So we trying to cover multiple things, and
a bit of inspiration.
And we've one of the things that I talked with the lady at Comic-Con was she said I like that you're kind of going a bit deeper on things, and we had a tweet the other day, didn't we, Paul, from a chap who said it's quite rare to get that sort of insight from people. Normally if it's just kind of fluff PR type stuff, and so he said keep up the good work. So it's
I'll echo that. Actually, I think that I'll echo that. I love your chat with Ray, and I think the interaction with you guys, I think between you two, I think is really good as well. I would also add, if anyone wants to follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter, if I see any job opportunities coming up for entry level, I always repost them. So please feel free to dive in.
Brilliant, that's really good.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So, to our dear listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Thank you for taking the time, as always, to travel the Whoniverse with us. And massive thanks to Pete for joining us tonight as well.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Really enjoyed this. Thank you, Pete. Thank you for joining us, taking time out of your busy evening to sit on our little podcast, mate. It's been brilliant. Really enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
Continued success, both.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. That's
brilliant.
Fabulous.